Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. And so the British government are gushing all over the new passports that we're getting soon with a colour change from burgundy to blue, allegedly. But that's not the only change. And in this video, I'd like to discuss how every aspect of the changed passport represents a perfect metaphor for the humiliation that is to the UK Brexit. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, first of all, there seems to be some debate as to whether the new blue passports are even blue. Some think that they're black. Some people have even dug out their old passports from the 80s, so they've got the physical thing in front of them and saying that this is black, it's not blue. Why is everyone saying it's blue? Now, I don't really want to get into the are they blue or are they black thing any more than I was bothered about whether the dress was blue or gold. Apparently, blue confuses all sorts of issues of this nature. But it's been called blue, that'll do me. But the colour does highlight three aspects of Brexit itself. First of all, I would say, what difference does it make if our passports are red or blue or yellow or what? None whatsoever. Having a preference for a colour is normal. Everyone has favourite colours. But wanting your country to go through a ruinous constitutional upheaval and dividing the country in two to impose that colour preference on everyone else is very far from normal. Secondly, it strikes me as being really showing the ignorance of what the so-called EU constraints we've ever had are. So ask a typical Brexit supporter about all the things concerning EU membership that they were opposed to, and you'll find them trot out a load of things that are not true, that the EU don't impose on us at all. The colour of the passport is a classic example, as I've pointed out before, and is easy to point out to someone else. Croatia is an EU member. It has blue passports. You know, why? Because they wanted them. We could have done the same. It was the UK government that chose to change them, not the EU. Sure, other EU countries were going, should we all use burgundy, all use the same colour? They didn't have to. It was a choice. Third, the metaphor about what Brexit really is. Now, is the passport blue or is it black? I mean, they've been printed now. They actually exist. People can look at them. And yet, those people still can't agree on a common position. It's very much like Brexit itself. As Brexit supporters, you know, if you ask them about the nitty-gritty of what Brexit actually means, ask them detailed questions, and they will soon disagree. This was how the pro-Leave campaign got into full swing in the first place. For years, they couldn't actually agree on what leaving the EU meant, what it should entail. And so they remained disparate and ineffective. A laughingstock. Then they stopped trying. They adopted their common position of just wanting to leave the EU with no plan for the aftermath, don't even discuss what happens afterwards, because that was the only way to unite them. And so it is with the sheeple acolytes. For some, Brexit is blue, for some it's black. They don't even agree years later. But that's just the colour. So next we move on to the manufacture. So, as an EU member, our EU passports were made in Britain by a British company employing British workers. Now, I will say that although, yes, Brexit supporters all disagree on exactly what Brexit is, I'm going to say I've got good reason to believe that at least a lot of Brexit supporters did genuinely agree that Brexit should mean more British jobs for British workers. Of course, the reality is very different. We're frequently being told of British and British-based firms moving operations overseas, particularly to the EU or to countries that have a free trade agreement with the EU, so they don't get stuffed by Brexit. There's been a huge net loss of British jobs due to Brexit so far. So much so that when you've got a situation where someone doesn't lose their jobs, let's say you've got a company that's thinking about leaving and doesn't, Brexiteers cheer it as if it's a victory. It's like, you're not cheering new jobs. Those jobs were already there and they weren't under threat if it weren't for Brexit. You don't get to cheer the fact that they haven't lost their jobs any more than the British government get to say that if they retain 17,000 nurses that are currently working in the NHS, you don't get to say they're new nurses. Our new Brexit passport, which is blue apparently, that's what we're going with, that's what I'm going with, is not going to be made in Britain. But Poland, that's an EU country, isn't it? It's been made by a French firm, Actually, I think technically it's a Franco-Dutch firm, but those two countries are both in the EU as well. So entirely, all of the profit for this is going entirely into the EU, out of the British Treasury, for which the British taxpayer, has donated, and into the EU. And because the British firm that used to make them has not been awarded the contract for the new passports, there are now 200 British jobs likely to be lost to the gain of Polish jobs. Nice one, Brexiteers. Nice one. And for those who try and complain that, it's because of the EU rules that the contract had to be awarded to the EU. What twaddle. But let's say you genuinely believe that. Let's say that was the case. What you're basically saying is, so what the government has done is, okay, we're still in the EU at the moment. We're still in the single market, still in the customs union, still following all EU rules up until the end of 2020. Got it. Got you. So what you're saying is what the British government have done is to issue a contract up until the end of 2020, which has gone to the Franco-Dutch firm to be made in Poland, and just to last till the end of 2020, after which, because we will then have left the customs union, the single market, Boris Johnson says we're not going to follow any EU rules, he is then free to award that contract to the British firm again. That's what he's saying. No. The contract is for 5 years. The bottom line is that Brexit was only ever about more jobs for those who voted for it, not for those who pushed it or are in charge now. Finally, there's the purpose. So a passport is not a badge or a flag. It's not supposed to be politically charged. It's a practical document. It helps us, for example, prove that we are entitled to work in the UK. The new passport will do that just as well, no problem, so that's not an issue. But its main purpose, and the reason why I haven't had one for nearly 20 years, is that it gives you certain rights outside of your own country. That's what it's for, passport. As a member of the EU, it gave us preferential treatment when crossing the borders into over 30 countries. Member states of the EU, as well as a few others which had close relationships. The new one does none of those things. It confers onto us no benefits at border checks at all. And I don't just mean the countries that the EU one did. It's not like we've lost the benefits in those countries but gained them in other ones, which would naturally be further afield anyway and less useful to us. But no, we get none at all. It confers on us no preferential treatment across any border in the world. We will be in the longest queues when passing into every country on earth. And as someone pointed out at the weekend, an Irish passport holder now has more rights in the UK than a British passport holder. Think about that. It also used to confer rights to employment, housing, healthcare, pensions, non-British consular support, because there are countries where, let's say Britain is a bit persona non grata, you may need consular support, there may not be a British consulate in full operation there, but there may be a French one or a German one. As an EU member, we would have had access to help there. Outside of it, no. If there isn't a British consul, then we're stuffed. Again, the new passport confers none of those rights either. The new passport doesn't just lose us benefits, that are compensated with new ones. There are no new ones. Not just not enough new benefits. It's not like we're losing all these benefits, but we're gaining all these. So there's a net gain. There's literally no new benefits. None at all. Not even one. Not even a pathetic one. And that's the most crushing aspect of the metaphor. Years after the Brexit referendum, not a single supporter is able to name a single benefit to Brexit. And I don't mean prove that the benefits outweigh the downside. You'd have to do that to convince anyone that Brexit is a good idea. No. Cannot even name a single tangible benefit that isn't a complete lie. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the new Brexit passport. One final thing of note, and it has been noted that the new passport doesn't just change the colour and remove references to the European Union. It reduces in stature, though not completely removes, a reference to another union, the United Kingdom. The new passport doesn't say United Kingdom prominently at the top, but British passport. As a few people have pointed out, it's almost like the government are getting ready for the UK to no longer exist, although even doing that would represent a certain level of arrogance on the part of the morons in charge of this decision. After all, if the composite parts of Great Britain did go their separate ways, surely no one nation, even the largest one, would have the right to name themselves British at the expense of everyone else based on the island that we all share. But it does include United Kingdom. It's not that it expunges UK completely from the passport. It's at the bottom. And it could just be aping the pre-EU passports, which used to say the same. But placing the emphasis on British and not United Kingdom does make you wonder what message they're trying to send. So anyway, there it is. The new passport is a sublime, in my opinion, quite perfect metaphor for everything about Brexit. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, then please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.